learn about our flowers and everything else. Hi, my name's Gloria Zamolik, and this is the Eastside Huddle group in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Our group arose from the Women's March after the last presidential election. We are a nonpartisan group of women who share values of respect, dignity, and justice for all human beings. Our goal is to support political candidates who reflect these values and represent Iowans with honesty and integrity. So with that in mind, we are inviting the Democratic candidates for senator to online meetings with us to help inform our fellow Iowans about these candidates and encourage them to participate in the upcoming primary election on June 2nd. So we have members here today. We also have some guests. Please feel very welcome. We're glad you're here. And I'm gonna throw it over to Theresa so she can do a short introduction. And then we've got some general questions we'd like to ask her. So where'd Theresa go? There you are.
Isn't Zooming fun? All right, well, thank you for the invitation to be here, Gloria, and all the Eastside huddlers and guests on your video today. I'll tell you, we have been working from home since March 13th, but just because we're working from home doesn't mean we're standing still. And we are filling our days with lots of these kinds of activities, campaigning hard because we know that Senator Joni Ernst has not put Iowa first, and we are working hard to make sure that we have a new senator in November. I want to tell you a little about me. I am a businesswoman, I'm a mother of 4, and I'm a farm kid. And I grew up on a little farm outside of a town of 500, and I had a high school class of just 24. And when I came of age, it was the start of the farm crisis in the early 80s, and interest rates were 21%, and farm families were in ruin. And of course, I took that very serious. I went to auctions where the contents of families' homes were put in boxes, put out on hay racks, auctioned off for $1 or $2. And these families left our communities. My parents, they were hit pretty hard too. They had to sell their crop dusting business. They had to sell their hogs, and they never farmed again. And all 5 of those kids, we left the rural area. Today, of course, in Iowa, farm families are struggling again. Main streets are struggling. Small manufacturers are struggling across this state. Between haphazard trade and what I call the Ernst ethanol policies, a net farm income is down 75% since 2013. Bankruptcy rates are at an 8-year high. And Joni Ernst, she is no friend to our farmers. And farmers and farm families should not have to suffer the way families that I know suffered in the 80s. So I'm in this for our state and our state's economy. But I'm also in this fight for personal reasons. I take the fight of hardworking families with me everywhere I go. I carry it in my heart. I was widowed at the age of 24. And my first husband was a lineman for the power company. He was an IBEW member, so we were a union family. And you know what? Unions built the middle class of this country. I, for one, will never forget why my lights come on and who delivers my mail and why my streets get cleaned and et cetera, et cetera. And so on a bright June day, Rod got up and went to work. And later that afternoon, the priest knocked at my door and told me that Rod had been killed in a workplace accident. And I became a single mom with a 13-month-old and another one on the way. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be in this fight were it not for Social Security, survivor benefits. It gave me that hand up that I needed to get back on my feet, and without hard-earned union benefits. And it wasn't just the union benefits, though. It was the union family, that wrapped their arms around me and shoveled my driveway after winter blizzards. I mean, that kind of help is what got me back on my feet and allowed me to go back to college. I studied city planning, urban planning, community planning, worked in that field for about 14 years, then moved on to land development, became the president of a a home building company, and then ultimately have been most recently the president of a commercial real estate company, always working in small businesses. Look, I got in this fight to put Iowa first, to fight for hardworking families. I think that Washington should work like our hometowns, where we come together to get jobs done. And so I'm delighted to be here today and answer your 3 questions and continue to fight for Iowa.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start with the first question. Hi, Theresa. My name is Leslie Nesmith. It's great to be here with you today. Thanks for your time. Our first question is, what, in your opinion, are the three most important issues for Iowans, and how do you plan to address these issues?
Okay, well, thank you, Leslie. Great question. You know, first and foremost, right here today, I think COVID is the most consequential event of our lifetimes. And it has disrupted our lives, it's disrupted our economy, our jobs, education, our supply chains. And I know that that is top of mind for everyone. But as I have crisscrossed the state and done over 100 campaign events, I'll tell you the top three things that I hear the most about are healthcare, jobs, and dark money in politics, ending political corruption. And so for me, I believe healthcare is a right. It's not a privilege. And that we need to make sure we're working together to make sure absolutely everyone has access to high quality, affordable healthcare. For me, that means strengthening the Affordable Care Act, enhancing the Affordable Care Act. We have enormous tools in that act that we can use to achieve those goals. But we also need to add a public option. Absolutely everybody should be able to get into a public option, not have to rely on employer benefits. That public option can unleash entrepreneurship. You know, folks can leave a business and start their own business if they can get into that public option, and it can ensure that we get everyone covered. And then finally, we have to make sure that Medicare is negotiating for prescription drug prices to bring down those costs. And I think Iowans just need to know that Senator Joni Ernst has voted repeatedly to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which would gut your protections for pre-existing conditions, kick your kids off healthcare. But one of the things I'm most concerned about is rural access, rural hospitals. And the Affordable Care Act allowed for the expansion of Medicaid, which has kept the lights on at rural hospitals. When I kicked off my Hear It from the Heartland tour, our very first stop was the Boone County Hospital. And I went there to they're an independent county hospital. I wanted to learn about the patients they serve, the services they offer, but also sat down and talked about their business. You know, how close are they to closing their doors and going out of business? And what you learn pretty quickly is that Medicaid expansion has helped our rural hospitals stay open and provide those services throughout this state. So healthcare, and healthcare of all different kinds is number one. Number two is jobs. And of course, I have worked my entire career in small businesses. And right now, with so many small businesses, doors closed, the lights are off, they need a leader in Washington that understands how difficult it is to make ends meet, to get the lights back on, to provide those jobs, sign some paychecks. And that kind of experience will be critical as we work our way out of this pandemic and economic crisis. But of course, to grow those jobs, I think there's three things we need to be looking at. One, certainly boosting education opportunities, making sure we invest in community colleges. I am a product of Governor Bob Ray. I went to Iowa Lakes Community College, and they invested in community college. It was affordable. I got a job at Pizza Hut. I made enough money that freshman year to pay my bills, buy my books, pay my tuition, and get a beer on Friday night. And I came out of that year debt-free. And I think everyone needs to know that they can go off to college, community college in particular, and come out of it debt-free if they work hard and apply themselves. Second, I want those folks to get skills and start small businesses across this state. Again, we're a state of small towns and small businesses. And to do that, they need access to capital. I was in Northeast Iowa, talked to some community leaders. Their plumber is going to be retiring soon, and they're worried that there's not going to be a plumber within 20 or 30 miles to help provide those services for them. And yet, to start a new plumbing business, of course, you've got to buy trucks and equipment. And how does a young person, someone that wants to start that career, get started without that capital? And so boosting skills and those opportunities, boosting capital will help us with those jobs. And then finally, we need a robust infrastructure package, one that not only fixes our bridges, but one that brings broadband internet to our rural communities throughout the state, to every home, so that folks are competing for jobs all over the online opportunities that we have. But it boosts education and telehealth and precision farming and so many other things. So healthcare, jobs, and ending political corruption. On my parents' farm, my dad always said there's no boy jobs and there's no girl jobs. There's only jobs that need to get done. And the very first job that I published a plan for was to end political corruption, get dark money out of our politics. And Iowans think it's unfair that dark money groups can come in, and they're not wrong. I've taken a pledge not to accept one dime of corporate PAC donations. I'm thrilled, and Citizens United has endorsed our campaign. My plan proposes a few things. One, ending Citizens United. Two, ending corporate PAC donations. Senator Joni Ernst has taken $1.9 million in corporate PAC donations, and you can draw a direct link between the things she won't support to who pays for her campaign through those corporate donations. And three, ending that revolving door so that if I go to serve as a senator, I don't leave after my term and go get a cushy job on K Street. You should be there to represent your state, and when your service is done, go back to being a citizen leader. And then finally, ending dark money if we can, and if not, requiring disclosure of who is investing in those dark money groups and the role that they're playing throughout our elections across this country. So I'm thrilled. Again, I've taken that pledge to not accept one dime of corporate PAC donations. Senator Ernst has taken $1.9 million. There's a sharp contrast there.
Great. Lisa, you want to ask the next question?
Hi, Theresa. I'm Lisa Oberruder, and mine is a two-part question.
Okay.
The first part is, how will your message resonate among Iowans with different political views? Not a friendly audience like this one.
Yep.
And secondly, explain your strategy for bringing Iowans together and motivating people, especially younger ones, to get out and vote.
All right. Well, thank you for the question. I think Iowans are independent thinkers and they're independent voters. And we have seen that when you look at, we voted for Senator Tom Harkin for 30 years, but we also voted for Senator Chuck Grassley. And Iowans take a look at their candidates, they take a look at their values and their priorities and cast their votes accordingly. And I intend to take every bit of my scrappy farm girl grit and resolve and fight in every county and every township for every vote. I don't see Iowans as Republican voters or Democratic voters. I see them as our friends and our neighbors and our community members. And I go out across this state with that attitude and with that kind of respect, because I am running to do a job, and that job is to put Iowans first. And the way you do that is you listen to folks. And that includes listening to folks who might have a different idea, a new idea, one that some of us might disagree with. But I want to hear all, because we have a lot of work to do to improve our healthcare system, to rebuild our farm economy, to rebuild jobs. And we need to go out, and I certainly will be going out and listening to all Iowans. And I'll tell you, when I kicked off this campaign last June, I focused on building the strongest grassroots connections that I could. And one of the things I heard as I've traveled this state is people want the divisiveness to end. They want it to end. I was up in Dickinson County for a meet and greet event, and a gentleman attended that evening. He walked me to my car when it was over. It was dark out. I appreciated that. And I asked him why he came. And he said, well, he wasn't a registered Democrat, but he wanted the divisiveness to end. And he wanted to meet all the candidates, Democrats, Republicans, so he could make his decisions. And I remember that with me when I travel, that people are looking for someone who's going to put Iowa's needs first and put the politics aside. So that's what I'm working on. Then last, you asked about young folks. Well, I have to tell you, I think young voters are some of the most engaged voters we have. And I am delighted I have so many of them that are volunteering on our campaign. As a matter of fact, in Dubuque, there's quite a big group. They call themselves, I believe, the Dubuque Army, and they're wonderful. But what I know when I visit with them is that they care about the same things the seniors that I talk to care about. They care about their health care. They have pre-existing conditions. They need medical care, and they're uncertain where that system's going to lead for them. They care about ending climate chaos, and that's something I hear wherever I go. And they want to lead on that. They worry about jobs. Some of them are graduating college right now, this weekend, and they wonder where that first job will come from. Will they be able to earn a living wage and go after their American dream like my first husband and I did? And so when you take the time to listen to them, and I love to listen to them, again, I'm a mother of 4, and mine are ages 33 to 27. They are deeply engaged, and I am incredibly excited about their leadership today, but also their potential for tomorrow. So thank you.
Great. Melinda, I think you were going to ask the third question.
Oh, hi, I'm Melinda Weaverling. Welcome to our Huddle group. What would you say distinguishes you from other candidates as someone who could represent Iowans and work with senators from both parties?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I'm a businesswoman. And again, I think Iowa State is small towns and small businesses, and particularly as we work through this COVID-19 recovery, those small businesses across the state are going to benefit from having a leader who knows how hard it is to make sure that you're making a profit and can keep those lights on and can pay people's salaries and can provide services to the community. And so I'm going to take my many, many years of small business leadership to Washington, and that reflects Iowa and who we are. I'm a mother of 4, and don't discount the decisions that are being made at the kitchen tables right now. People struggle to pay the rent, wondering how they're going to put groceries in the refrigerator, and I was a single mom of a 13-month-old and another one on the way, and I didn't get here by myself. I needed Social Security and a hand up. And so those struggles, those decisions that families are making, hardworking families are making, those are decisions I understand and I won't forget about when I serve Iowans in Washington. And finally, I'm a farm kid. And you know what? I understand the struggles of our rural communities, our main streets, and our small manufacturers. I remember the devastating impacts of the Russian grain embargo, for example, and the decision in Washington that led to the farm crisis. And once those markets are lost and damaged, they're very difficult to get back. And so we need to rebuild those trade relationships, rebuild those markets if we can. But it also means that I'm going to take that feisty farm girl to every county and fight for every single vote. And I'll tell you what, the other thing is I have worked for 14 years as a community planner, my early career. 3 nights a week with neighborhood groups, planning commissions, city councils, town boards, county boards, etc. That is grassroots as it gets, where you come together to solve a problem. And you learn quickly at the local level that a pothole is not a Republican or a Democratic problem. It's a problem to be solved, and you have to come together to get it done. And that is the attitude with which I will serve this state as your next senator. We've got big problems to solve, and we can't look at them as Republican or Democratic problems. Whenever, as a community planner, we had success in solving something, or whether it was a new trail system or a transportation system or working on affordable housing, when all the stakeholders were at the table, folks that didn't agree with each other when it started came to some agreement on the end, those projects were the most successful. And we got to get back to working like our hometowns in Washington, D.C. All right, here's my promise to you. I'm never going to forget who I am and where I'm from and who I'm fighting for, and that's Iowans.
Great. Okay, I know we have a couple of members that had questions, I know ahead of time, so I'll go ahead and call on them, and then if we have some more time, I'll open it up. So Sue, you had a question I think you were going to ask?
Well, I'll try and remember how I worded it, but let's see if I can put this together. Obviously, the COVID crisis has exposed real problems in our food supply chain. And I'm wondering, given the concentration of power that's in these large processors, the Tysons of the world, what role you feel small diversified family farming can play in correcting this problem, and how we encourage more small family farming as opposed to big ag?
Well, Sue, thanks for the question. Absolutely. And I think COVID is going to be the most consequential event of certainly my lifetime. And it's going to expose a lot of where we have fallen short as leaders in our decision making and where we can improve, whether it is in agriculture, whether it's in education, whether it's needing the need for high-speed internet, and those that have and those that do not have. But after we came home and came in off the road, we put together a plan to tackle COVID, and I have been focused on a few things. One is putting workers and our frontline essential workers first and foremost, and they need to have emergency temporary standards for all of our businesses so that they can get opened up again and make sure that not only the employees are going to be safe and healthy, but customers too. And that goes throughout all of our supply chains. And we are experiencing, of course, the crisis within the meatpacking industry. But it's for all of our businesses need to understand those standards. OSHA and CDC have to help with that. We have to make sure we put our frontline workers first and foremost, and also ramp up production of PPEs and testing kits so that folks can do their jobs safely, absolutely. Another thing COVID has certainly shown a spotlight on is our need for paid family sick leave. People should not have to decide whether they go to work sick or whether they stay home and lose a paycheck or maybe even lose their jobs. People have to be able to take some leave and get healthy. Now, as I've traveled the state, I've had the chance to sit and meet with some farmers and talk a little bit about their growth and where they want to go. And certainly what we need is more competition. We have to level the playing field so that we can have some of these farmers come into the marketplace. I, for one, would support some student debt loan forgiveness for folks that have studied agriculture and want to come back home and get a chance to invest in some land and start their small farms. We need to invest in conservation stewardship programs and offer opportunities that support regenerative agriculture or smaller farms and the kind of agriculture that sequesters carbon. We can do that. The kind of agriculture that continues to support and promote low or no-till agriculture. And then finally, I have met with a farmer out in Guthrie County, and they're working on doing exactly kind of what you're talking about, creating opportunities for very small farms that might be part of a larger farm, but a few acres that would be planted and utilized to provide food right there for their communities, whether it's small orchards, whether it's chickens or hogs, and so that they would begin to diversify on every farm and have a place to sell those goods. It was pretty innovative, and I hope that they continue to work on that. And I certainly would love to be on the Ag Committee and see if we can't get those kind of opportunities to build more small farmers in our state and of course around the country. So thanks, Sue.
Okay. And
Yeah.
the other person I remember is Nancy.
Yes, I had a question. Thank you for coming. And my question is, do you feel more government stimulus is necessary or advisable, given that it'll add to the national debt? And what would the burden to our children be? That's a big question for the end, but.
That's all right, Nancy. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for zooming in too, right? Well, we are in a crisis right now. And I will tell you, as a business leader, my leadership style is one that certainly we're paying attention to today and what the crisis is, if there was one, and what we needed to do to act so that we could still be a business in the future. But we also spend time thinking about now, in the near future, and farther down the road. And your question, of course, encompasses all of that. Where we are today with stimulus, and do we need the next CARES package? What are we going to do in a year or two as we work our way out of this economic crisis? And what does this look like, and how do we make decisions differently so many years from now so that we can handle these kinds of crises better? And what we've learned from Senator Joni Ernst, leaders in Washington, is that they didn't value investment in public health. and didn't value really being prepared for a global pandemic. And we need to value that, absolutely, and we can. In terms of additional stimulus, you know, one of the things I've been disappointed in both parties on, and I'll say it all the time, is the lack of a robust infrastructure plan. And that infrastructure plan is something that we need here in Iowa. We are 50th in the nation in bridge suitability. Sexy fact, right? But, you know, those bridges aren't Republican or Democratic bridges, and they're bridges that need to be fixed. If ambulance can't get from your little town to your little farm because that bridge is out and they've got to go around, your health could be at risk. And so we need to invest in a robust infrastructure plan to fix some of those things, to also invest in climate resilient infrastructure, but also create those jobs, and jobs that can be renewable energy jobs, green jobs, jobs that grow our infrastructure, our electrical systems, jobs that will put folks back to work. And most importantly, we need to bring high-speed broadband internet to every single home in this state and give people a chance to create those jobs online too. So an infrastructure package, I believe, has to be part of where we invest. Bottom line, Senator Joni Ernst, she voted for a tax bill that raised our debt $2 trillion to give away large, large breaks to the wealthiest and to the largest corporations. And we have got to make sure that anything we do with our taxes doesn't harmfully affect hardworking middle-class families. So thank you very much, Nancy.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mute myself. We have a few more minutes for another question. Does anybody have one if they want to raise their hand? Questions? Okay, I'll ask one. I have lots of questions. What about, you're seeing my t-shirt. I started recently volunteering with Moms Demand Action. Very concerned about the gun violence in our country that just won't stop. A few weeks back, there was a shooting pretty much in my front yard. So, you know, we've been talking about this for years and years and years and years, but we don't seem to get anywhere with the Congress. What do you think you can possibly do to improve the situation?
Well, thank you, Gloria. Love your shirt. I believe it is long past time that we take action and have policies that keep guns out of the hands of people who can harm themselves or harm others. And overwhelmingly, the public agrees. NRA members agree. It doesn't matter which party you are part of. Now, I grew up rural. My husband and I are responsible gun owners. We filled our freezers in the fall with venison, with pride. I certainly made sure that we kept the varmints from getting our baby pigs. And you know, it was a lot of pride and fun that I shot skeet on Sunday afternoons with my dad. But we learned responsible gun ownership, and that's not what we're talking about here. We need to take action, and bipartisan action. And so I believe our first steps need to be bipartisan, and they can be. We need to have universal background checks. We need to close gun show loopholes, and we need to invest in research to understand why we have so much gun violence, how we reduce it, what our next steps are to reduce gun violence. Because again, overwhelmingly, the majority of Americans want us to take those kinds of actions. You know, the House of Representatives passed a bipartisan bill that included that, doing those things, and it is sitting on the Senate's desk. Mitch McConnell will not bring that bill up. Joni Ernst will not demand and do her job to have that bill heard on the Senate floor. And we should vote her out so that we can take this kind of bipartisan action and get started on reducing gun violence in this country. Thanks for volunteering.
I gotta do something, right? So any other quick questions? Because I think we're about out of time. We wanted to keep this 30 minutes so it'll be watchable for people that watch it later.
Sure.
So thank you so much, Theresa, for coming. Thank you, everybody who came out. It was a sunny day today, but we're here because we care. And also just reminding people that you need to get a ballot. I would vote by mail. I also was going to be a poll worker this year. I went to the training and everything, and I went, nope, not anymore. So,
Or if people need to get an absentee ballot request form, they can go to greenfieldforiowa.com/vote by mail, and it directs you right to how you can get that ballot if you need it. I hope that the viewers understand you have until May 22nd to request that absentee ballot. And then, of course, once you get it, you have, I believe, until June 2nd to get those in. But I'm sure instructions will come with it. So I hope everybody gets out to vote. And of course, I'm here to ask for everybody's vote.
okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Before we all hop off, would love if we could just get a quick picture to post on our social media too. If everyone can just, wave really quick so we can take a quick picture.
I'll do it.
Okay, got it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for
you.
work for volunteering in your communities. Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Theresa.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 There.
Okay, let's see.